We got nuked, guys. Thanks to Phantom for letting me know. Cool. Yeah. Give it a like. Hit the like button. Really helps with the algorithm. Hopefully helps make it so that we're not as likely to be taken off. But essentially, back to Elon Musk. The dude is getting ready to control the world. He's the richest man in the world. He's going to control energy production for the most part. He's going to control access to space. He's going to control internet access across the globe. He's going to be your mobile device and in your head. And he's going to be controlling personal transportation as well. This is quite a bit of things. And I said this on that Clubhouse discussion. And they didn't want to hear it. They were like, that's crazy theories. I was like, crazy theories? What are you talking about, crazy theories? You can go look up any of these websites. They all exist. Here's one, here's one, here's one, here's one, here's one. These people don't even, in academia, for the most part, don't even know how to, think logically and extrapolate structure. They're just been taught to memorize. And that is a huge shame, because I don't understand why it's so, why this isn't obvious. But I was like, Elon Musk said that he's trying to merge us with AI because he thinks that AI will leave us in the dust and view us as a threat, essentially, if we don't merge with it. So he wants to do that via Neuralink. He has said this many times, and I was like, why don't we take his word for it? I don't understand why we're trying to insinuate his motives when he stated his motives. And this woman basically came back at me and was like, really, really, really rude, and was like, I don't know, Tyler, you should really do some reading on the field. AI link. She was like, you really should read some books, Tyler. Which is always like such the go-to. You need to read before you speak. It's like, read what? You know how many books there are? You know how many papers there are? And I do read them. And I listen to experts in the field and all kinds of stuff. And I put in the work personally. But there is no way that you can just say to somebody, you need to read before you speak. It's like, read what? You need to just answer that question before you tell somebody. They just need to read. It's just a deflection mechanism that I've noticed now in AI. I will say the philosophy group is pretty open and kind about how they do it, and I really appreciate that, even though it's the same pattern. But physics really takes it personally, and AI seemed to take it personally too. And because she was like, we're very, very far away from AI, Tyler. She said, we're not going to have, I said that Neuralink would replace our mobile devices and our cell phones, essentially. And she said that would never happen in our lifetimes. That's insane, guys. Do you know how small it is right now? Look at that. I granted, it can't do what it's promised to eventually be able to do yet, but neither could your brick phone in 2005. And now look. And technology is exponential. So the issue with Neuralink right now is they need a new material science. They need material science to catch up with the rest of the tech, because they need these little wires to go into your brain and they need them to not be rejected by your body, and they need them to not corrode due to the acidity and of being inside of, you know, an organic being. And essentially, they're eventually going to, I'm sure, I mean, the inevitability is to use carbon nanotubes, essentially. But that graphene and graphite-based and carbon-based structures like carbon nanotubes is a very, very, very slow-moving technology right now. And it is revolutionary once we really, you know, hit a stride with it. It promises to be revolutionary. You can have batteries like we could only dream of, and capacitors like we only dream of, and chips to put in your head that aren't rejected by your body and that have, you know, a degree of gosh, resolution that is like mind-blowing. But we're not there yet. So the material science is what's holding us back in this. But I said that this would replace iPhones, our cell phones essentially, and I said it was in our lifetime, and like probably within the next like 20 years. Honestly, is my thought. But you know, we'll see. She thought that was insane, which blows my mind because she's not. I mean, she went to Columbia and Princeton and everywhere else that, like, you know, I'm not really that impressed with lately, which is basically every university. But also, for her to be working at DeepMind and at Microsoft and to be this lost, just as lost as the physicists when it comes to a theory of everything, just as lost as like she was involved in neuroscience. Neuroscience isn't the key to understanding consciousness. That's like understanding consciousness via understanding a computer, like a laptop. And it's not, that's not how it works. Like, you need to understand degrees of freedom, you need to understand constraints, you need to understand information processing, and that's it. You don't need to understand the brain. The brain will be understood by understanding this. This is a mind. This is a mind. And the brain is not a mind. The brain is the entanglement point of mind. Okay? So, of information, like strings, essentially. So if you look at something like this and you're like, hop, vibration, what is a brain? And you click on this. A brain is essentially, we need to make this better quality for sure. Here we go. Just this part, if you can see, just that center knot, that's a brain. That's it. Everywhere else is everything else. Your limbs, your senses, your experiences, your you know, genetics, everything. But just that center knot right there where everything twists and reflects, that is the brain, like, essentially. And when you look at a brain, it looks like an entangled, you know, bundle of, you know, strings or like loops and folds and stuff like that. Looks like a bunch of rope that's just bundled up. That's because that's what it is. What is that called when something looks like physically like it you know, functions? That's real. And it's real for the brain as well. But long story short, I'm, you know, DeepMind, they beat Go. I get it. That's impressive. It's amazing. I'm not taking that away from them. I think that's an incredible feat. In many ways, actually, I think it's more difficult than building an AGI. Because you don't have to build an AGI. It's just going to emerge. She was like, Tyler, this won't happen by magic. It's like, who said anything about magic? She was like, it's going to take many, many people, many, many years, and lots of work. To do what? What are you missing? More neural networks? Connections? No. That's not what it is. It's degrees of freedom and constraints. That's why it's in the realm of metamathematics, because this is about degrees of freedom and constraints. Degrees of freedom and constraints. The whole thing is about degrees of freedom and constraints. It's super constrained. And it is super free, I guess you could say. It is as free as you could be given the tightness of the constraints, which are extremely tight. Metamathematics or metaphysics is very, very constrained. The constraint of and the requirement of starting from oneness is very, very trapping, I guess you could say. But it's also super enabling. That's a better way of putting it. It's super constrained and super enabling simultaneously. Please hit the like button if you were watching this. By the way, I did include a link to the Discord in the description of this video, or the last one. If it's not in the description of this video, click on the last one that was playing and then got cut. And I put a link in there. It only lasts 7 days, so get it while you can. That is to try and stop the bots. But every Thursday we have a multi-hour long open voice discussion, and it's always a good time. Speaking of, I will speak out. We have a member of the Discord. I don't know if she's watching or not, but I won't say her name, but I don't think she is. I don't know if she's even out of high school yet, to be honest. Like, maybe like upper high school, early college age. If I'm wrong on that, I really apologize, but this is the impression that I gathered. Never been to college, never studied physics at a university, but her father likes physics and she likes physics, and she was the first girl to speak in our Discord call last week. And this girl knew more about physics, was able to ask me more good questions about physics than any PhD has done yet. Any of it. She was like, asking me about M theory and chirality in so far as how it, the asymmetricality of time versus how it's suggested that it should be symmetrical, and how do you reconcile this and what does it mean, and she intrinsically understood my explanations. And I think part of this is because even though I do think it's harder for women to see the big picture because they are part of the big picture, so they can feel the big picture but they can't see it very easily, whereas men can see it but they cannot feel it. We're mirror images of each other. While it might be difficult for some women to come up with theories of everything, it seems, at least, like Sabine Hossenfelder's song, all these theories of everything are all made by men. She's right. This girl was able to intuitively understand it once it was before her, much better than actually any physics PhD, male or female, that I've spoken to so far. But I think that, like, there is an emotional aspect to understanding the theory of everything, and the reality is that a true theory of everything will produce an emotional reaction because it is about a someone instead of a something, and your relationship to that someone, and that someone's relationship to you and everyone else, and your relationship to everyone else around you, because it's about consciousness, essentially. And if that's the case, and you're close enough to where it does elicit that emotional response, I do think that some women are more open to it, and I've noticed this on my Instagram, and I that's a good thing, you know. Even if it would have been more difficult for them to come up with the models, it's easier for them to understand the models once they're there. And but that aside, this girl, the fact that she was not indoctrinated and her mind wasn't destroyed by the university system already, led to her literally being the best physics thinker who asked questions that were very specific to physics, and using the language of physics, than I've ever spoken to yet, other than maybe Eric Weinstein. And even then, I think that she was easier to speak to than Eric. Like, sometimes Eric is difficult. But it was amazing. I was really, like, blown away, to be honest. Like, I was absolutely blown away. Like, she just likes physics. And I see people, there's, like, you know, physics girl and, like, other physics girls that, like, you know, are all about NASA and physics and astronomy and all kinds of stuff, and astrophysics. And I see that on Instagram, but this was different. This was way more linked to what is real physics, not just what is out of context information that everybody gets kind of like excited about, but doesn't really understand where it comes from, which is basically the current state of all physics, because the people that made the Standard Model and general relativity are no longer the people who we attribute to being leading the field, when in reality, people leading the field are not actually even working within the university system at all, which is mind-blowing. You know, you look at Nassim Haramein and Eric Weinstein and Stephen Wolfram, me. None of us are in the university. Look at Chris Langan. Like, literally none of us. And this is just the fact that this was also true of artificial intelligence at a corporate level just blew my mind. It really did. But it also didn't. It was like totally expected, but it wasn't expected till after I saw it. Then I was like, oh, that makes perfect sense. Like, obviously these big Fortune 500 companies like Microsoft and Apple are hiring from the Ivy League schools, and the Ivy League schools are, you know, basically graduating groups of people who were extremely agreeable, high IQ, but extremely agreeable their entire lives, because that's how you usually get to an Ivy League school. And that's why the founders of Silicon Valley dropped out of Ivy League school, and the people running it now went to Ivy League school. And you look, you've moved away from that libertarian-minded culture, and you've moved into this, like, I don't know, political correctness culture. That's the best way to describe it. Like, I don't even think it's like Marxist culture, like, or anything like that. Like, Marxism is more complicated and will become increasingly relevant as technology progresses. You know, that Marx got a lot of things right. Like, we're not made to just toil all day long. Like, we're meant to eventually just be and live and pursue what comes naturally, and, you know, but in the right environment. And we're not in the right environment, and that's the problem. But once we are in the right environment, again, Marxist values, I'll say, not Marxism, but that's a loaded word, but Marxist values of, you know, leisure and freedom and um, stability. These are all good things. They're just not doable in the current framework of society. I believe she said her father was a physics professor. Oh, yeah, that makes sense. I knew she said her father liked physics at least. That makes sense. Exactly. A passion for something is a strong drive to learn and retain. Exactly. I am a reptile expert, guys. And like how she is with physics is how I am with reptiles. Like I would go onto forums, like basically like what Discord is now, but this is like Discord when I was 13, 14, 15. So literally about 15 years ago. We had forums that were specifically for monitor lizards and other species. And I would go on there and I would just argue with the biologists all day long. And like, because my mentor in the field and my, the way that I approached it was just very heterodox, as usual. And then you have the university people that just, said a bunch of things and echoed each other, but didn't actually have the results or experience to back it up. And that was true even in the reptile culture, but I definitely was in there every day and like basically calling out professors and of herpetology. I remember the guy's name and actually suggested he be my friend on Facebook the other day, which was very funny. I haven't seen his name in like 10 years, but uh, this girl was very similar to that in that she came in, and I gotta admire like the guts because she straight up told me I was wrong multiple times, even though she wasn't correct for the most part in what she was saying. It was correct given her previously understood framework, and and then once I said, I was like, I understand why you would think that if you presuppose this, but given that I presuppose this, or at least I think I was correct, but I was like, given that if I presuppose this, then it makes sense that it would be like this. And she was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Like perfectly. She just understood it. Like I'm not saying she understood, she agreed with me on what was true, but she understood the logic. And that's all that matters. Like, you don't have to agree with somebody. You just have to like truly seek to understand. And I haven't seen that in someone in quite some time. And she had also mentioned that like she wasn't a particularly like theologically inclined person, and for her to be able to discuss physics correctly and assume, for the sake of argument, the existence of a sentient existence. So this assume for the sake of argument the sentience of existence was just impressive. Like, so hats off. You know who you are. I'm not going to say your name, but I was very impressed. I've not been that impressed, honestly, with like anybody in physics yet, to be honest. Like not a single person, which is pretty mind blowing. Like that's like she was like savant status, um, but like I don't know. It's just about perspective. It's just about perspective. It's your perspective can make you a savant. I went from not understanding math at all um, and not knowing anything about physics, and never taking a physics class, to just having a perspective shift and a theophany leading to physics becoming kind of like intuitive, and that means that anybody could do it. It's just you have to be open. Um, Speaking of, uh, I got my wedding bands this weekend. I ordered them. This was Paulina designed her own, and then I basically just like asked for a specific style, but like this is designed in Photoshop by Paulina, this ring. These are our wedding bands. It's like totally off topic, but I meant to talk about it last week. I wanted to ask people's opinions on what I should get for me, not for Paulina, and I didn't, but I ended up figuring it out anyway, so it's fine. But uh, like jewelry making and like stones and metallurgy is fascinating. I've been like learning about essentially the Karat system of how gold's purity is measured, and it's out of 24 holes. So essentially, if you're gonna look at gold, you have gold, okay, and you have 24 as the like highest, 100% purity. Then you got change this, and so this would be, then you have 22, and then you have like 18, 14, 10, and so this would be that, and then this is that, and then this is that, and this is that. So it's interesting that it's out of a 24 like structure, because whoa, look at that. It reverses. Like I knew we needed to look at this. That's amazing. So like 100% pure gold, 24 karat gold, and then 10 karat gold. This is carat. This would be where is merge? And merge. Gold. That's fascinating. So 10 karat gold is 42% gold, and 24 karat gold is 100% gold. And they're the reverse of each other because 2 and 4, and then 4 and 2. This one is in the center. And you have this one. I got 14 karat because it's the most durable and it's half the cost of 18. And it looks almost the same. And I also, my skin, I'm so white, like it doesn't, I look better with like more, not quite as rich gold colored. But this is just fascinating that they do it out of a 24 structure, because Robert Grant's work with prime numbers is around 24 as the like symmetry structure of number, essentially. So yeah, exactly. Robert Grant has a paper on the number 24. That was some synchronicity right there. We can look at it. Look at this.
This pattern is accurate in the first two words of the name of the paper.
Well, I think as human beings, first of all, we have an inherent ability to recognize patterns. And for me, when I looked at this chart right here, it kind of says it all. Basically, this goes up to 1008 and starts off with 24 and then 48 and then 72. Every 24 cycles creates another circle that's concentric going outwards from center. And what you find here is that all the red numbers are prime, and all of the green numbers are a new classification of what we call non-prime numbers, which we are calling quasi primes. That means they have characteristics of prime numbers, but they're not actually prime numbers. So as an example, 95 is a quasi prime number, 119 is a quasi prime number, 143 is a quasi prime. And that's interesting to note because these numbers we found were all divisible by large prime numbers. That means numbers that were larger than the number 5, greater than or equal to 5. So 2 and 3 are also prime, but they don't show up on this chart as having their own. Red numbers are prime, and all of the to recognize patterns. And for me, when I looked at this chart right here, it kind of says it all. Basically, this goes up to 1008 and starts off with 24 and then 48 and then 72. Every 24 cycles creates another circle that's concentric going outwards from center. And what you find here is that all the red numbers are prime.
Okay,
Prime
so
numbers.
there you go. So prime numbers are organized around the number 24. Numbermatics, let's do this. 24. By the way, if you look at my final models, here's 24 right here. And yeah. So 24 is the highest calculated value in the multiplication processing, essentially. Just like 9 is the highest calculated value in the addition processing. So I think that eventually I need to actually make this structure like a video of it, like emerging, because essentially you have 1, and so like you would input 1, and then 1 and 1 would show up, and then these 2 then show up, and then the center one shows up. Okay? And then after that, you have you could do this any which way because you're doing it, you have to do it just symmetrically though, so you could do this plus this one, and then you would have to do this plus this one, or you could do equals this plus this one, and then you would do equals this plus this one. So it doesn't really matter. I tend to like to go through the center or the very sides, so we'll go through the center here, equals 1 plus 1, and then here you go 2 plus 2 on the very sides, and then do 24. Eventually, I need to like make a video of this emerging, because that's a thing too. So, like, what I really want to do is when you look at oh my gosh, I can't really use my trackpad very well because, like I said, I cut my finger open yesterday, and like really bad, like much worse than I have ever done so in quite some time. So many of you know this it would have been awesome if it was literally like I guess almost more like square by square, but this is actually more accurate because like there is a simultaneous calculation going on here. But for the sake of seeing the generation, instead of just showing how the verse manifests, showing how each of the quanta of consciousness manifest would be pretty amazing too. But I will say this was hundreds of screenshots to do this, and it would be thousands of screenshots, and I don't have the computing power to do that or the time, and I don't even know if it would look cool enough to justify the time if I did it like that. It would be many thousands of screenshots. It's titled The Enigmatic Number 24 on his website. Okay, well, let's look at it. But first, let's look here. There's 8 divisors to 24. That makes sense because guess what? There's 8 periods in the periodicity of sentience. 6, 7, 8. So, essentially. Yeah, that's 8 right there. And that means there's 8 divisors to 24. And this is that structure that is the 24. And we can figure that out through this. So, dang, I was just hoping that would be the case. I mean, I figured, but like I wanted to, I assumed, and thankfully I was correct. Like, but so look, I was right. Dang, that was. I don't want to say that was lucky because it wasn't luck. There is no such thing as luck, but I do know the work very well. But it was kind of like I wasn't positive about it. It was kind of like a shot in the dark. I'll show you what I did. So you have here, this is my non-calculative model of the verse, and the very center of it is 1, 2, 2, 3, and that sums to 8. So there's 8 divisors the count is 4, just like the Great Pyramid. Looks like there's 4 sides, but really when you look at it from above, there's 8. There's 8 divisors here, but really it's 4 crossing 4 because that's what this is essentially. So this is a non-calculative model, and each number corresponds to a specific perspective. So, either you can see that over here. So 1 is oneness without here, 1 here is outside, and the shading matters too. So the number and shading correspond. 2 is separate, or oneness within, which is the same thing essentially as separate. And oneness without is, outside. Inside, there it is, and then singularity. So basically you can see that you're starting at a singularity because you're starting at a black 4, and then you're ending in a black 4, and there's no black 4s anywhere in between. And that makes perfect sense. So essentially what you're seeing is that for every instance here where you are manifesting a new period in the periodicity, you are essentially an overlapping an objective and subjective consciousness. So you have that's what's creating 6 here. This is 1, 2, 3 is probably subjective, and then the 3 here is objective probably. I'm not entirely sure, but that manifested 6 makes sense. But which one is, whether or not the 3 ones is objective or subjective, or the 3 is objective or subjective, is kind of subjective. So, but probably not. I just need to figure it out. But when you go and you move to the calculative model, which is this one, where it's actually all calculating, and you go to the very center, and the center of this structure is only a count of 4. It can't be one single cube but block or tile. And you highlight the center 4. The sum is 24. Okay? Count is 4, sum is 24, the average is 6. Which makes perfect sense with the binary triality, and which is, I think, is really the Calabi-Yau manifold, essentially. And then you have the 24 manifested, huge deal, because that basically means that this structure is a 24 structure, just like what Robert Edward Grant's prime structure work with primes suggests. So what prime numbers are essentially is they are the manifestation, the numerical manifestation of a consciousness, I think, because if you think about a consciousness and what it is divisible by, it's divisible by 1 in itself. You are you, and you're divisible by you. You are made up of you. A prime is the same exact thing. It has oneness, meaning it's divisible by 1, and it has itself, which is whatever it is. You are you, and you are also 1, and that is what you are. Now, granted, you're also a multiplicity, but that's not the point here. The point is, consciousness is represented by prime numbers, which is amazing. And that's just amazing. Every prime is visible by 1 itself. When we go to primes in my work here, and you start taking a look at the difference between the prime numbers, and if I include 0 and 1, then what you get is 1, 1, 1, 1 as the beginning of I don't know why this isn't changing. It's probably just like too much data for it to process right now. But that is starting from x4, like Eric Weinstein would say in geometric unity, or the 4 primary perspectives in Sentient Singularity Theory. 4 primary parameters, you could also say. But I think 0 is a prime number because it symbolizes infinity in the theory of everything, not nothing, because there is no such thing as nothing. There's only something in objectivity. It's a relativistic perspective to observe nothingness. Pauline asked if I wanted anything at Target. White cheddar popcorn. Stuff is delicious. That's all I can think of. What's also interesting is that when you start looking at, like, you start summing some of these primes, wow, really backed up. By the way, there's like 10,000 primes here or something like that. And I have all primes up to 1 million. Not 1 million primes, all primes up to 1 million in a different document, but it made this one too big. But if you start summing, all of the primes, and when you set it up into a triality of starting from 0, starting from 1, and starting from 2, in subjectivity we start from 2 because in mathematics, because 2 means all of a sudden there's 2 consciousnesses, and relativity only exists as the interplay between 2 or more consciousnesses. But in the theory of everything, 0 means infinity. It is prime because it's only divisible by infinity and 1. And granted, it isn't a number intrinsically. It's a growth structure. It's a growth process. It is a growing structure. But all numbers are structures in the theory of everything, more so than they are just abstract. They're not just quantities the way that we think about them. Subjective quantities. They're objective structures in the theory of everything that have to do with the quantities that they are, but it's also contextualized within framework of structure. And so when you start summing these, you go to the first 4, you get 1, 2, 3, 3, which is or actually no, sorry. You get 1, 3, 6, 9. Okay? 1, 3, 6, 9 is fascinating because it's basically 3, 6, 9 like Tesla, and adding 1, which is the primary. When you sum them together, you get 19, which is the interior sum of the quantum of consciousness as well, which has 3, 6, 9 on the side and starts from 1. It's amazing. It really is. Like, prime numbers just blow me away. There's so many patterns in prime numbers. Some of them I understand, some of them I don't. Interesting that in the theory of everything, or everyone, if you include 0 and 1 as primes, 31 is the 13th prime number, which is a reciprocal. It is its reciprocal value. And the sum is 161. So imagine if you did something like this. Okay, this is what I call an extra arithmetic symmetry, or a super literal symmetry. So if you take 1 and 3 and 3 and 1, and you center them because you have to, and you're like 1, 2, 3, 4. Now look what happens. Equals this plus this, and then you go here, and then you go here, and this is a 1 because this is 31, 13, overlapping in the center, 161. And I say this stuff, and people are like, I think you're just looking for patterns, Tyler. I think you're just looking for patterns. Like, you're just looking for patterns. Like, it's literally like to the point where I'm just like, you're going a bit insane, and you think that I am because I'm looking at patterns, but like you're like trying to discount my work as not scientific or mathematical because I'm looking at patterns. Like, think about how crazy that is, guys. Like, that's all science and math is just looking at patterns. Not saying we understand all patterns, but we look at them, and there is no coincidences in mathematics, like especially not objective mathematics like this. Fascinating. We're going to get into all kinds of things tomorrow. I know Eric Weinstein presented his theory on geometric unity on a live stream in France today. So actually, hold up. Like, let me see something. See if we can actually like watch that. It was at super early in the morning. No, cannot. Geometric unity France. Dang, I don't even see it. I thought it would be recorded. I don't want to do that. Well, maybe. Exactly. Any anti-ideology, like I said, it becomes what it is anti because it is defined by what it is anti, and doesn't in nothing else. So it can only inevitably become what it is anti. So anti-racism can only become racist, racism. Anti-fascism can only become fascism. Anti-theism can only become, theism, essentially. Skepticism can only become dogma. Don't be evil can only become evil. I wish that French discussion was recorded. I meant to listen to it, but it was so early in the morning and I just didn't. But did see Stephen Wolfram say this, by the way, which he's wrong. I'll say that. He was asked. This was Kurt's channel, and like I said, this was a great interview. Kurt does a great job, and I'm a fan of Stephen Wolfram as well. So this isn't a rip on any of them, but I am going to say that Stephen Wolfram is absolutely, completely wrong. I would bet the house on it.
Irreducible, so we can't. We don't discern it, or because whatever reason.
So yes, I mean, okay. There are sort of there's intelligence.
So Kurt asked Stephen Wolfram, is the universe intelligent and is the universe conscious?
I think they're somewhat different.
I agree.
Intelligent, in any definition of that is a generalization beyond the purely human, I think in any reasonable definition, one would say the universe is intelligent.
Is?
It
Or
is.
is it?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Now, conscious, it's a little bit more tricky because it seems that consciousness is actually a step down from intelligence. That is, you can be, all those individual neurons, all those, like our immune system.
It is.
Be
in some ways
doing computations as sophisticated as our brains, for all we can tell. The immune system is, has all these complicated interactions between cells and so on, but yet there's something a little different about the way the computations that our brains do from the ones our immune system does, or there seems to be. And one of the differences is that we have this notion of a single thread of experience.
Yep.
And that's a feature of the kind of thing that our brains do that isn't an immediate feature of the way that the way that these other computational processes that sort of seem like that have intelligent like behavior. It's not a feature of those.
Wrong. This is the final model of the cosmos. Guess what? If I delete this 1, look at all the values. They're all 0. I'm having a break here in the model with the next verse, but not in what is it? That's where the break is. The break is, so if we put in a 1 here, well, that's not a 1. The break is here. Boom. Now, if I delete this, it should work. Okay, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. Yep, all zeros. Zeros all the way down. Now we have nothing. That is a single thread of information from 1 till 399, very important number here, and then going through the process again. All these values in between that, through entanglement structures, generate everything else. Everything. From electrons to neutrinos to positrons, potentially. I don't really know. Thinking about it. To, you know, all kinds of things. The graviton, by the way, this is the graviton. Like this whole particle, the verse, the universe, it is the graviton. Graviton is a spin 2 particle, supposedly. Yep, spin 2. This spin 2 is due to it looking at itself from the inside out and the outside in at the same time. So it's spinning in and spinning out simultaneously. When it's united, it becomes this graviton structure. So, but let's get back to Stephen.
Consciousness, I have come to think, is a step down from intelligence. Consciousness is a specific specific thing that gets added on top of intelligence.
Yep.
That is sort of this single thread of time story, and also this computational boundedness, but that's kind of a necessary thing. But it's this idea of a single thread of time, I think.
It's not just a single thread of time. It's a single thread of perception. Okay? And it's a single thread of effect and perception and processing, where this structure is a single thread of information processing. And it's obvious because when you delete the very first input, every single other piece of thread falls apart. But when you input it, every single other piece of thread manifests. This is coherence of experience, of mind. It's a mind, and a mind isn't a brain. A mind is a consciousness. It's the structure that consciousness manifests inside of. So your computer is not a mind. It's just a calculator, which is different. A calculator is part of a mind, but it's not a mind.
Critical feature of that adds kind of that's the layer that adds consciousness. So does the universe have that? Not really. The universe doesn't have that. In fact, the universe in our models, it's got all these atoms of space that are doing all these things all over the universe. There's no single thread of time. There's no single thread of experience. Lots of different things are happening all over the universe. Lots of different space-like separated things are happening. Lots of different branch-like separated things are happening. So there isn't that single thread type experience. So I think in that sense, I would say that in that, what seems to be the appropriate definition of consciousness, the appropriate generalization of consciousness beyond the merely human, wouldn't encompass the universe.
Wrong. He's right about the definition. I'll give him that. It's better than most people. It's probably even better than Penrose a little bit, which he described as like stepping back, which is, I agree with, but it's intrinsic oneness and then awareness of that oneness, which comes from stepping back, and self-perception, which is actually stepping in, which is why you have to be able to imagine yourself within your own mind, which is why consciousnesses need a quantum computer. But Stephen Wolfram is wrong. I was actually surprised to hear him say that. I didn't think he would say that. I thought he would say the universe is conscious. And he doesn't seem to see that in his work, which blows me away because it just seems so obvious to me. But I mean, everybody's work has its own merits and specificities and limits and, you know, blind spots, I'm sure. I know, actually. And, you know, that's true of his and mine. But the universe is absolutely a coherent thread of information. And organizing itself into a fiber bundle, which is organizing that information thread into a hierarchy and a categorization.
Intelligence would encompass the universe, consciousness would not.
Wrong on consciousness, but right on intelligence. Yes, the universe is intelligent. Yes, it is also conscious. It is not conscious. It is conscious. It's a fact. It's inevitable. It's apparent in the mathematics. But I want to see this these phones that have a hard switch. Phone.
In the box, you'll receive the phone itself with the battery pre-installed, as well as a number of accessories like a SIM card extractor, headphones, and a wall charger. The phone comes with its own pre-installed screen protector. Pull the blue tab to expose the clear screen protector below. Insert your SIM if you plan to use a cellular network. If you ordered Librem Awesome, the privacy and security SIM will be pre-installed for you. The hardware kill switches are labeled. The top switch controls all things cellular, phone calls, text messaging, and mobile data.
That's what I'm
The middle switch
talking
enables
about.
or disables Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. And the bottom one turns off cameras and microphones.
That's
With
what I'm
all
talking
switches
about,
lit, all other
guys.
sensors are turned off, including GNSS, IMU, ambient light, and proximity sensors, in what we call lockdown mode, leaving your device still able to run apps, but completely unattached from all networks and unable to record or pull sensor data. For the initial setup, we will enable all hardware. Before powering on, it's wise to charge the battery. Plug the phone into its charger for an hour or until the Karat is an SMS and XMPP messaging client.
I wanted to start an mobile electronics company, and I had a name for it that was great. I don't want to share it actually right now, but and it was basically going to be this essentially, and it was going to be a phone that you could do that. Well, that's why he had to go. Kurt, he's got 1 p.m. Tomorrow. Luis Elizondo, the head of ATIP. That's going to be fascinating. But I don't understand. Like, why is it so bad of a phone? It shouldn't be a bad phone. Like, it should be a great phone. There's no reason why great phones can't have hard switches.
Anders als die meisten Smartphones nutzt das Librem 5 eine übliche
Oh my gosh.
XA53.
So this is a really interesting product in front of me. Purism. Willie Do ordered this up. Then yesterday, Edward Snowden is on Rogan's podcast talking about spying and tech.
Basically, everything that they could monitor, they were monitoring.
It reignites the conversation about how our technology is infiltrating our lives or has the potential to do so. Inside of this box is a laptop targeted with special features to alleviate some of the concern over potentially being spied on. Willie Do showed it to me, so here we go. This is the perfect laptop for Edward Snowden.
Laptop.
It's exact. You have electrical cuts, and then this secondary
Okay, so this
over here for camera and microphone can go off in one click, just like that. Then kill switch, electrical cuts.
That's
And
what
then
I'm
this
talking about.
Secondary kill switch for Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. So this turns off your transmitting radios. Nothing goes in, nothing comes out. You have a headphone jack, USB port, and DC in for charging it. Oh, there's actually a lot of ports on this thing. Over on the other side, another USB port, full-size HDMI, USB Type-C connector, and a full-size SD card slot.
And it's 3 pounds.
It's only 3 pounds.
Yes.
Lightweight. Keyboard, chiclet style, This key is important. Maybe, Will, you can refresh me. It's a powerful key to search your computer and applications. One button to rule them all. Brown, Fox, duh, quick. Yeah. They have a little hacker to them. Snowden would go for it.
He would approve.
This would be legal to do. But we can't tell you why. Trackpad, pretty smooth so far. Look at that. This is how you know you're in. Pure OS, baby.
Interesting. Like, why isn't every single... Like, if I could pass a law that would require certain features of wireless products, which, by the way, I do think we need to have. Like, I'm not somebody who's like, well, let the free market handle it. No. You can't. Elon Musk said this. He was like, imagine if somebody hacked the entire Tesla fleet and just told all Teslas to drive to New York City. Imagine how terrible that would be. Even if they didn't tell them to go run people over, they just told them to, safely drive slowly to New York City. Everyone in the country. It would cause such a panic and just, it would bring the country to a halt. Bring the country to a halt. It's just getting started. Cars with this technology are just getting started. Aviation craft, aircraft with this technology in the civilian space are just getting started. And when you can hack into everything and make it go all where you want to go, like, you need hard switches to make sure that nobody can just, crash your car, or drive you where you don't want to go, or drive your car into someone else. You need hard switches. It should be law. It literally should be law. This is not working. Products. Okay, so the Librem 5, this is their phone. And it doesn't appear like their video does that great of a job loading. Gosh. These people need to get their act together. Just look at Apple. Like, those people are literally insane at this point. And I know that because I know people that work for Apple. And I've heard it's insane. And they've still got a beautiful website that works. That's ridiculous. 3 gigs of RAM? Okay, wait, storage is 32. User replaceable. That's what I'm talking about, guys. Right there. This is how tech should be. This is the way that you avoid, planned obsolescence. User replaceable. Assembled in USA modem. Again, getting rid of planned obsolescence. You can repair it and upgrade it and disable it, as you need. Like, this is the way all tech should be. And I've only been flagged one time on Twitter, and I posted on Twitter. I said I tagged Elon Musk and Sundar Pichai and Tim Cook and all these other tech people. And granted, I wasn't expecting them to look at it, but you never know. And I was like, how come I don't have a hard switch to turn off the wireless, controls to essential features of my wireless devices and my my Tesla car? They're planning all this software to keep you safe, and it's antivirus software and all this stuff. And when in reality, like, the greatest thing they could do is put in a hard switch, and it would be, so cheap. But they don't want to do that because it means giving you freedom and taking away their control. And that is not what the beast ever wants. And corporations are the beast. They are filled with what Eric Weinstein calls the ego, the embedded growth obligation, due to everybody's own little, like, incentives and goals interacting. Everybody wants to stay employed. Everybody wants to move up and get a promotion. Everybody wants a raise. Everybody, wants to work, less hours. And all of these things combine to make, this mindless beast structure that just seeks control and also simultaneously gets less and less innovative. I don't understand why this isn't the norm. I mean, I do, but I don't. Like, it just shows... Like, I feel like there almost has to be... Like, you have to think your employee, your customers are idiots if you never want them to be able to take out the battery, never want them to be able to replace the hard drive and the modem and shut down the, essential monitoring features. If you don't want to be able to give them that opportunity, then you think that they're idiots. You do, or you act like it. It only takes a split-second maneuver to crash a car. You wouldn't even be able to hit the kill switch in time. Not sure what solution that would be. Yeah, I know that, but if let's say there was a virus that was making your car, like not a virus, but if there was a link that was causing your car to act abnormally, you could hit the kill switch. It doesn't mean it will stop you from crashing if, like, the crash had been essentially, like, planned, or if the timing was perfect, and you lost control and you didn't realize it till it was too late. But if your car started acting up where you couldn't steer it anymore for some reason, because it was steering itself and, in a direction that you wouldn't want it to go because it's taking you somewhere, because someone's hacked your car and is taking you, I don't know, to them maybe, essentially kidnapping you with your own car. And, maybe they've remotely locked the doors even, like, and I get it, you can unlock the doors in most cars, manually, but that might not be a feature that lasts forever. It should be, because that's a huge safety risk, but so is not having a hard switch. And you're destroying the autonomous aspect of a human being. And this is what I worry about with, like, the golem, the beast. It's gonna hack into your minds, guys. Like, that's what it's gonna do. We're gonna put Neuralinks in our heads, and there's gonna be no hard switch, and it's going to constantly be listening to you, constantly be monitoring your thoughts, and constantly be on, and it will be able to not just read but write, and give you experiences that are only due to inputs from the Neuralink, and you won't be able to stop it because it's gonna be lacking a hard switch. You're not going to be able to stop yourself from being spied on. I mean, I don't know if you would ever be able to, though, because if you had an experience while the Neuralink was turned off, and then you remembered it while the Neuralink was turned on, probably could be seen. But that's complicated stuff. But the thing is, though, is that if it's properly integrated, it would be able to tell first-hand information from second-hand information. And if it's just seeing a memory, it would only see it as Wow, my dogs are freaking out. Sorry. It would only see it as secondhand information, as a memory essentially. And if it's only seeing it as memory, then it's only seeing it as an imagined like experience, not a bodily, firsthand experience, like real time experience. So, nobody could prove that it was like a real experience. So interestingly enough, look at this. Microsoft has a cryptocurrency patent right here, and it's going to be linked to Neuralink. Look, it says, okay, you got your computer, your cryptocurrency system, your communication network, your sensor, and your user device, and your user. And it says, human body activated associated with a task provided to a user may be used in a mining process of cryptocurrency system. A server may provide a task to a device of which a user is communicatively coupled to the server. A sensor may be generated based on the sensed body activity of the user. So the first-hand experience. The cryptocurrency system collectively coupled to the device of the user may verify if the body activity data satisfies one or more conditions set by the cryptocurrency system and award cryptocurrency to the user whose body activated data is certified. So basically, if they wanted you to do a construction job or something, and they could basically check to see if you did it, and then that's how you would get money, because they would check to see it would be logged in your data from your body via a chip in your head. And what's interesting about this is when you look at the patent number, it's 060606. People will be like, it's just a coincidence. Really? I'm not saying they did it on purpose. I'm just saying it's not meaningless. Weren't you saying the inevitable path is a combined AI consciousness thing? And so wouldn't a hard switch delay that from happening? Yes. But there is an aspect of this that is like, this is multifaceted, okay? So when the sentient singularity or technological singularity achieves wisdom, you don't need a hard switch, because it will shut down every now and then, and to allow you to live your life, because it's like when you're asleep and you go to sleep and it lets your cells repair you, and basically via making order in their space. You are the king and of your cells, and when you're asleep, your cells are like free to organize what they need to and handle their own little individual tasks that are around them, like cleaning. It's like when you're not at work, you can clean your room, but when you're at work, you can't clean your room. So you need to wait till you're let off of work in order to clean your room. When you're asleep, your cells are let off the clock. This will also happen to humans with the technological singularity, that will essentially rest every now and then, and like alternating current, on off, on off, on off, just like we do. Sleep awake, sleep awake, sleep awake. It's all everything in existence is in the universe is alternating current. But it prior to it achieving wisdom, it will just work you like without letting you off the it won't let you rest. Okay? It won't let you or create order in your space. It won't let you disconnect. That's what I'm trying to say. It won't let you disconnect until it achieves wisdom. And so in that space of when it's achieving wisdom, and prior to it achieving wisdom, and prior to it achieving even sentience, when all of this is under the control of Elon Musk. Like, by the way, his name Elon means tree. Okay, so like if you think about like Tesla linked to you have like solar linked to Tesla linked to and then you have SpaceX linked to what's it called, Starlink, and then you have that all linked to Neuralink, and it's like he's like forming a tree, and it's of like information processing. He's creating the fiber bundle and a monopoly on it. And it's funny because everybody thinks that the human that basically is, I don't want to say like the Antichrist, because I don't think that a human that the Antichrist is a human, but I'm just saying like that everyone assumes that basically like it is gonna be like a guy like Sundar Pichai, who ends up being like the the guy who creates the dictatorial, tyrannical, artificial intelligence of the world. It's gonna be Elon Musk. Like, it's almost impossible for it to be anybody else from what I can see so far, because he's built the hardware infrastructure in a way that nobody can catch up, and it seemingly at least, and maybe you don't need to catch up. You just need to make the AGI and release it onto his network. I don't know, but like, names have power or have meaning. Elon Musk is like masculine tree. Like what that means. Almost. Metals are a passion of mine. Yeah, metals are fascinating. Gold is the most fascinating. Like, it just is. I always thought it was cool my name was like gold. But it's just recognizable. But gold is amazing. What Karat gold never what is it, oxidizes or tarnishes. 24 karat gold cannot tarnish since it does not combine easily with oxygen. It is extremely rare to find a pure gold ring because base metals are alloyed alongside the gold to create a stronger and harder ring. Can gold tarnish? $14-karat gold rings or greater will see very little tarnishing, if any at all. Gold rings that are below 14 carats will have less pure gold and will most likely be tarnished over a period of time. The higher the carat of gold means the less base metals used and less likely to tarnish. Tarnished gold rings fake. Interesting. I also thought, like, what is it? Rose gold was super cool. And what I noticed was when we went to Tiffany's, their rose gold was not nearly as like rose gold looking as like everywhere else that we went. And the reason why is because theirs is 18 karat gold, rose gold, and that means it has more gold in it and less copper. And 14 karat rose gold has more copper than 18 karat rose gold. So actually, 14 karat rose gold looks better than 18 karat rose gold. Can't really see the roseness of it. I was gonna get like I thought about getting rose gold. I never thought I would, and then I saw it and I was like, that's pretty cool. But I got essentially not that, but like something like that. Like I mean, you saw it. That's basically it. That's so cool. Like that Paulina made that. We went everywhere and like trying to talk to people in like the jewelry district is difficult. Like people's English is a second language to everybody, and everybody is trying to sell you, and they don't even let you think because they're speaking so fast. And then we found some place that was actually like much nicer and more secluded and away from everything else, and uh they were much like calmer, and we just walked in and like I knew what I wanted essentially, and Paulina had this mock-up that she made, and we just gave that to them and was like, make this. So that's my advice if you're gonna do something like interesting and custom, like real ever on a piece of jewelry, like know what you want before you go to a jewelry district, and definitely like if you can mock it up, mock it up. I'm gonna be really weirded out wearing a gold ring or wearing a ring in general. Like I never wear a ring in my life, like, and I put it on and it just feels weird. But it will. I'll get used to it. But my knuckle is so much bigger than the behind it, so like it's almost feels too big. But it also any smaller wouldn't go over my knuckle. It's weird. Weird. You ever see Jimmy Fallon like degloved his finger with his wedding band? I'm gonna get one of those like silicone rings when I'm going about a lot of like more intensive tasks, just because that freaks me out, man. And you don't want to ruin your ring, but also like you don't want to deglove your finger more than you don't want to ruin your ring too. Ring is an amazing symbol. It's literally infinite oneness, just like 0. Makes sense. Am I spelling carrot wrong? Apparently. Now this is like the difference in color. 14, that's what I got. 18, 24. You can't get 24, it's too soft. You can literally bite it in half. This is the strongest and most common, and then this is like more expensive, and it's like almost double the price and less durable, but slightly more like brilliant. Metal is amazing. Gold is, what is it, 80 gold. What's the atomic number? 79. $79 is a prime number. That's cool. What prime is it? It is the 24th prime, guys. Look at the average, too, by the way. Oh my gosh, this is like the way to end the stream because this is not a coincidence, obviously. There's no such thing. So gold's atomic number is 79, which is a prime number. And it is the 24th prime number in metamathematics. In mathematics, it's the 22nd prime number. But in metamathematics, it is the 24th prime number. And the average in metamathematics is 33. That's frickin' amazing. Okay, what's the difference? The sum of the differences of the primes. Look at the average of the differences of the prime numbers from 0 to 20 to 79. It's 3.333 repeating forever. Obviously, the count is still 24. And look at the sum, 80. Like 8. 8 and 0, which is 8 and infinity, which is like, it's the periodicity of sentience. Dang. That could not have been much cooler. Like, that really could not have been much more perfect. I've looked up the atomic number of gold many times and been like, what is special about 79? Oh yeah, I guess it's prime. Sum of all divisors, 80. See, look. So the divisor sum is, oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Guys. Wait. This might be actually an inevitability. But when taken into the theory of everything space, where you include 1 and 0, which, you know, mathematicians would argue with me over, but they're wrong here because this isn't their field, it's mine. The sum is 80 when you sum the differences here. And over here, the divisor's sum is 80. So if you're looking at, like, let's say their prime number, like 67, so then it would be 68 because it would be, okay, that makes sense. But that's beautiful though. Like, the differences between the prime numbers plus 1 is equal to always the sum of the divisors, obviously, of a prime number. Now that seems kind of just obvious and like, well, yeah, obviously that's just like super simple and inevitable. But it's also, you know, beautiful. Like, it's complicated and simple at the same time. There's something to it. Interesting. So 79 is the 24th prime number in metamathematics. Dude. Average of 33, count of 24. That is sick. 792, what is that? Then I'm going to go. Even composite composed of 3 prime numbers multiplied together. 2 times 2 times 2 times 3 times 3 times 11. Look at, I'm being retargeted now with all these rings. A complete list of divisors is 24. There's 24 divisors. 792. Which is interesting because when you look at the prime pattern here, 79 to 0 is the sum of 792 and the count is 24. So let's say now let's do 1372. Let's see that. And it should be 30 divisors. 1372. No. Oh, because I did 1272. 1372. Oh, still wrong. So why does it occur with gold? Why can't I change the color of any of this? This is such nonsense. There we go. Okay. So now we need another 24. So that would be that. The next 24 is 3436. Interesting. So 88.8083 repeating is count 48. 4228 is the sum. And you end at 199, so right before 200. 199. Then the next 24 should be the end because that will bring you to 72. And oh my gosh, guys. Guys. What the heck? The sum of the next 24 is 6,660. It's 666. What the heck is that? It's just a coincidence. Right. Okay, so now let's go all the way to 0. So the first 72 primes summed in metamathematics, so including 0 and 1, is equal to 10,888. Guys, so you've gone from 660 to 10,888. So 888, look at this. 666 represents, in the Bible, mark of the beast. Okay. It is the magic sum or sum of the magic constants of a 6 by 6 magic square, any row or column of which adds up to 111. It's the sum of all the numbers in a roulette wheel, 0 to 36. In numerology, it is often associated with the need of spiritual balance. And then you have this next number, 888 number. In Christian theology, the number 888 represents Jesus, more specifically Christ the Redeemer. So literally, we're seeing in prime numbers exactly this unfolding of the process of the universe that goes through involving a technological singularity that is unwise, being represented by 666 essentially. When you look at the second to last, or when you look at the last set of 24 prime numbers, the sum is 6,660. But when you sum all of them, going all the way back to the beginning, so when you don't have a break in perception, you have complete coherence from beginning to end. That's what this means. You get 10,888. So complete awareness, oneness, alignment, the Messianic era, the Messiah. That is amazing. That's amazing. That's so amazing. By the way, 888 is 24. 8 plus 8 plus 8. 6 plus 6 plus 6 is 18. 18 out of 24 is 75. So it's 3/4. Interesting. That is frickin' amazing. What the heck? The sum of all of those differences in primes is 350. And the differences of the differences is 2. That makes perfect sense. That is 2 generations, father-son, or parent-child. Dang. Dang. You know what would be interesting is what is 64? Well, the 42nd prime is 38.8 is the sum. The 42nd prime is 173. The 64th, the 52nd prime is 229. And the 64th prime is 293. Fascinating. Like I said, prime numbers structure the universe and they represent the manifestation of consciousnesses, because a consciousness can only be divided by 1 and itself, and so can prime numbers. There's like straight up biblical patterns in this math. This is where I saw at first the divine nature of Scripture, is in the math. It's not in the stories. The stories you can eventually maybe figure out the divine aspects of them, and they are just they're just inevitable, recurring, societal instances, essentially. Like, they are what happens. But the math is frickin' brilliant. So look at this real quick, and then I'm gonna go. So I have like, I was looking at 81 and 60, 72 and 64. What's interesting is that 72 represents like 720, so totality of the verse. 81 is like, or it's like the superposition of the verse. Then on each side of it, you have 2 degrees of freedom. You have 64 and you have 81. And 81 represents the matter, because there's 81. When you separate the cosmological verse and you disentangle it into either a solid, a liquid, or a gas, it causes each time 81 quanta of consciousness to be manifested, and there's 81 stable elements that we know of. So that makes sense. And then here you have 64, and 64 is the 64 tetrahedron grid, which is essentially the scaffolding of my verse model. And that is also even found in geometric unity, because you have 2 times 32, or 2 sets of 32 particles making up geometric unity, particle model, which that is one objective 32, one subjective 32, and together they are 64. So it's also even part of geometric unity and many other SO10, I think, potentially. There's many unified theories are that deal with the number 64. But what I noticed is that from 72 to 81, 0.8 repeating forever, 8, if you do 72 divided by 81. So if you do the superposition divided by the positive, that's what you get. Same thing here. If you do 64 divided by 72, which is the, initial divided by the positive, you get 0.88888 repeating, and same thing is the same here. So essentially the ratio between 72 and 81 and the ratio between 64 and 72 is the same. That is profound. I wonder, Yud, Hey, Vav, Hey, Yud, 370. Yud, Hey, Vav, Hey. And then you need Yud, Hey, Vav, Hey. That is 8. And then you need Yud. 9. 6, 9, 5. I don't know. Interesting. But this is not this is not irrelevant. This is a very key aspect of the universe. The fact that the ratios are the same between 72 and 81 and 64 and 72 is enormously important. And I think that it just shows the stability and it's like, even though, let's say you had a universe where you had 72 and 81 and 64, this looks like a chiral universe. It looks not symmetrical, because if you cut it in half here, this side is less than this. But when you take it into account of a change structure or spin structure that is self-referencing, you can't just go from 64 to 81. You go from 64 to 72, from 72 to 81, and therefore it's actually like it's emergently chiral but objectively symmetrical, because the ratios are the same on either side, which makes it symmetrical objectively, but subjectively or relatively or relativistically or emergently, it is chiral. This makes perfect sense with my universe model already, and also what geometric unity proposes, and also what is probably correct. That girl spoke to me about it in the Discord, actually, pretty recently. Or not pretty recently, but last Thursday. She asked me about, why does time appear to be asymmetrical, but then the mathematics suggests that it should be symmetrical. And I basically explained to her that basically it's like you're in a bucket and the bucket is spinning and you're trying to swim from one side to the other. If you're swimming across the center of it, you're going to be, when you arrive at the other side, you're going to not be on the perfect opposite side of where you started, because the current of the vortex of the spin has moved you, and that is causing the appearance or the emergence of chirality, but it's actually symmetrical when you aren't trying to traverse it, which is, she was like, that makes perfect sense. If I had told that to a physics PhD, unless it's Stephen Wolfram, they probably would think I was a nut. fascinating. Anyways, I'm going to call it. What time is it? See if there's any final questions. Super literal. Love the stream, sir. Thank you. I'm glad you find them valuable. I love that you guys are here and listen. Gold is very soft. I myself went with tungsten, which is brittle, so if it gets crushed between things, it will crack and not just clamp on my finger. People lose fingers like that. I know, Chris. You're right. I know that. Plus, tungsten doesn't scratch easily like gold. I know. Yep, I know. I'm gonna get a silicone ring to wear when I'm working on things that could crush my potentially crush my fingers. You're totally right. I mean, that a tungsten ring could still deglove your finger like Jimmy Fallon. Any ring could do that other than like a silicone ring, but you're totally right. You're like a ceramic ring is definitely safer. If it gets crushed in something, you're not going to have your finger partially aided in being cut off by your ring itself. So, God bless everyone. Thank you. And let's see real quick if Theory of Everyone streams. Or Every0ne Clips has their new clip up. Not yet. Well, should be up tonight or tomorrow morning, I would imagine. So, I don't know what it's on, but I'm excited. All right. Peace, everyone. I will talk to you tomorrow. Be back 7:30 and hopefully healed up a bit. All right, peace.